About this movie, a critic for Empire magazine says, against the odds of a feeble script and uninspired direction, the duo do, in fact, grow on you, and there are a smattering of silly laughs. Karen James of the New York Times notes that the most peculiar aspect of the movie is that some of it is played straight. And Letterboxd user Sean O'Con says, as a little blonde-headed fat boy, this was the closest to representation I ever saw as a kid. On this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we decide the fate of Tommy Boy.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be? It's the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters.
Two hosts in a little podcast. I don't know. I don't want to fat shame us because we're body positive here on the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Yeah, no, and but anyway, welcome to Ruined Childhoods.
Yeah.
It's your favorite podcast where two brothers talk about movies and have ideas about remakes, reboots, sequels, etc.
Yeah.
Continuation of legacy.
Yeah. Dan, I loved our last episode on Amadeus. That was really fun. And the more I thought about it and the more I told people about it, the more excited I got about it, which was really cool. It was really fun to do that one. And it fills me with so much joy that we're going to do Tommy Boy on this episode because they're so different from each other.
Yet I did manage to find a connection.
Okay.
Between the two. So, and not necessarily with Tommy Boy. We're going to be talking about Tommy Boy, 1995, the first real Chris Farley, David Spade. Well, there's really only two. Chris Farley and David Spade collaborations, Tommy Boy, and then Black Sheep, which was pretty much just kind of, let's take Tommy Boy and kind of tinker with it a little bit, and then we'll call it Black Sheep.
Yeah.
So the connection with Amadeus is actually to Black Sheep.
Got it.
And that is because in Black Sheep, Chris Farley plays the brother of a politician who's running for governor of Washington State, where I live. And
I know. The opponent,
the opponent is played by Christine Ebersole.
That is right.
Who is in Amadeus.
Who is the opera singer. Yes.
Okay,
there's a connection. But before we go too much further...
That's all I got.
Yeah. Well, before we get too much further into that, I have a few news bits.
News.
So, let's see. One of them has to do with a movie that we've covered before, so I'll start with that one. So, Dan, have you heard about Zorro 2.0?
I believe I have.
Okay.
I remember reading about a number of Zorro reboot projects.
So, this is according to Slash Film. The headline is Zorro 2.0 will reboot the classic character as a hacker. So, the film reimagines the iconic character as Oscar de la Vega, a young undocumented hacker known as Z0RR0. While fighting back against a secret government unit that attacked his mother, he discovers a high-tech conspiracy that threatens not only his family, but the world. So, a real reimagining of Zorro. You know what? It's all right, take it in a completely different direction. Fine by me.
Yeah, I guess who am I to say I'm okay with it or not? I don't own the rights, but I would say it's
you don't own the rights to Zorro.
It's kind of this kind of thing would work for me if it is acknowledged that the hacker character is knowingly taking their kind of identity or their online identity from Zorro, and that they are modeling themselves after Zorro, because then otherwise it just feels like, well, okay, you could have just made this movie and not tried to like just piggyback on the Zorro legacy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I guess for me, there's something, I have a very traditional view on Zorro, and I would like, well, I certainly wouldn't mind some tweaks to it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like more down with the whole, like, you know, Antonio Banderas remake, the
sure,
Alain
the more
Delon.
Traditional swashbuckling type situation.
Because we kind of we do still, I think, need that.
Well,
So-
I mean, I'd be curious to see what they do with this, if this ends up happening for real.
Yeah.
But yeah, another one. This is another slash film one, and this is less of a news bit and more of just an article that kind of sprung from an interview that Joel Cohen did. But the headline is the Coen Brothers movies you didn't realize were part of a trilogy, and these are not necessarily connected movies, but there is what I guess Joel Cohen considers the Numbskull trilogy, and they are the movies in which George Clooney is just a complete dumbass. So like Burn After Reading, Hail Caesar, and Oh Brother Where Art Thou. So those are just like the Numbskull trilogy, which I think is so nice. It's a fun way to think about their movies as kind of having a thread to them.
Yeah, well, it's funny because you can kind of break their movies into those little groupings, and I like your, what was it, No Good Nicks?
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's, I mean,
I forget what that one was. Yeah.
Yeah, I just remembered No Good Nicks, but I feel like there's like there's like the Hollywood, like there's Hail Caesar, Barton Fink, that kind of work with each other, and I don't think like it's the same studio from Barton Fink that's in Hail Caesar, just because
Schmucks, Schmoes, and No Good Nicks.
Schmucks, Schmoes, and No Good Nicks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good memory, Dan. I had forgotten all about that.
Oh no! Well, as soon as you started to say it, and then when you said, what was it, the, like, not the Dumbass trilogy, but
Numbskull.
Numbskull trilogy,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's like that, the Schmucks, and yeah, no, I forget it already, but
Schmucks,
anyway, yeah,
Schmoes, and No Good Nicks.
Schmucks, Schmoes, no goodness, right? So, and I feel like it's like Fargo could almost fit into the same. Actually, I'm thinking more of the TV series would fit with, like, Miller's Crossing.
I think that for them, it's really just the George Clooney as that particular type of character through line, rather than like an actual kind of
like thematic
trilogy type of situation. By the way, my dog Rufio is right next to me chewing on a toy. So if anybody hears something, that's what that is.
Bangarang.
And Dan, I've got one more, another slash film news bit. White Men Can't Jump is getting a remake.
Oh, okay.
This was news as of today, the day we're recording this, December 1st. The new script for White Men Can't Jump comes from Kenya Barris, who has been working on the project for years, and Doug Hall with Barris also producing. Blake Griffin, former NFL player Ryan Khalil, and Noah Weinstein are executive producing through their Mortal Media banner. So, I mean, you know what? We'll see. I watched White Man Can't Jump not too long ago, and it's, you know, it's great. And Kenya Barris, for anybody who doesn't know, is involved with like Black AF, Blackish, Mixedish, Grownish. And then wrote Barbershop, The Next Cut, Girls Trip, the 2019 Shaft, Coming to America. So, well, yeah.
If I may. So I also recently watched White Man Can't Jump as it was streaming on Stars.
The unsung hero.
Well, you know what else is streaming on Stars? Black Sheep.
Right.
So, anyway, having rewatched it recently and thinking about the story of it, I actually think a remake is a great idea.
Oh, yeah.
It is actually, it's great fodder for a remake, because even though the screenplay for the original, Ron Shelton wrote, is really great and witty and funny, I don't, it's not necessarily like a signature, like you wouldn't, like a Coen Brothers movie, you wouldn't try to remake, The Big Lebowski.
Right.
Because it's so signature to them. But I feel like White Men Can't Jump, even though like the sports comedy thing was definitely Ron Shelton's like jam.
Yeah.
I actually think that like having an updated sensibility to it, and maybe coming at it with a different sense of humor, a different voice. I see a lot of potential in a White Men Can't Jump remake.
There's no reason why they couldn't do it successfully. It's, it's a story that doesn't depend on a certain time period or technologies or anything. It's like the only thing I'm wondering is how are they going to handle Jeopardy?
Yeah, I mean, well, you got to think that's got to, I mean, not that Jeopardy's not still a thing, but...
Oh, I'm sure they'll do something different, but,
Yeah, but it's a different, it's a different landscape, so...
Yeah.
But I think it's it's very transferable.
Totally.
From 92 to, it'll be 30 years this spring.
Right. Wow.
Of White Men Can't Jump. Now, what I thought the question was going to be, do you think that they're going to bring Woody and Wesley in for cameos?
Oh,
I think they should.
I'm sure they'll try.
Not that I think that they should necessarily reprise that. I feel like this could be a new thing, and it would be fine if there were no Wesley or Woody cameos, but I think it would be cool, even just kind of like even a the Duke brothers cameo in Coming to America.
Right. Oh my God. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, also Rosie Perez, she's still out there. She's getting a lot of work lately. So
that's true. Yes, absolutely. Maybe Rosie Perez is the host of Jeopardy in this. Maybe her character. It's her character.
That would be perfect.
That would be awesome, right? I mean, I know this is not a White Men Can't Jump episode, and
I know. I mean, I think it just became one. This is a Tommy Boy episode, so why don't we talk about Tommy Boy?
Well, speaking of who could surprisingly jump, a white man who was surprisingly agile, and Chris Farley definitely gets to show. The Chris Farley cartwheels are things of beauty.
Oh, they really are. They're their own special thing.
Yeah, they really are. So Tommy Boy, 1995. It's your classic Lorne Michaels blue background on the poster production.
Yeah, with clouds. Yeah.
Yes,
mm-hmm.
Clouds.
Yeah, so here I'll do a little synopsis for anybody who either hasn't seen it or maybe has forgotten some of the plot points, but here we go. Tommy Callahan III is a complete screw-up. He barely gets his college degree, and he's been the laughingstock of his peers for his entire life, especially Richard, who now works for Tommy's dad, Thomas Callahan Jr., president and CEO of Callahan Auto Parts. But Tommy's ineptitude is okay, for now. Since he graduated college, it's on him to get his act together and learn the business from his dad, so he is one day savvy enough to take over the family business. But everything changes when Tommy's dad abruptly passes away at his own wedding reception, leaving a struggling business with a brand new brake pad wing to his new wife Beverly and Tommy. Tommy finds out that the only way to save the struggling business without the man who held the company together at the helm is to sell 500,000 units of brake pads in order to prove to the bank that they are worthy of a business-saving loan. Tommy heads out on the road with Richard to try to save the company, but doesn't count on Tommy's new stepbrother Paul, who is actually Beverly's husband and not son. Paul is dead set on sabotaging Tommy and Richard's efforts, so the business has to sell to a large auto parts manufacturer out of Chicago, netting Paul and Beverly a solid chunk of change. Luckily, Tommy's girlfriend back home, Michelle, catches wind of Paul and Beverly's shadiness and has a background check run on them that turns the entire scheme back into Tommy's favor, resulting in Tommy saving Callahan Auto Parts for good. So, that's the long and short of it. I mean, this movie certainly was successful because of the chemistry between Chris Farley and David Spade. And watching the two of them in, the Chris Farley complete maniac mode to David Spade's like straight sarcastic, wisecracking, insulting little buddy. And there's an awesome like back and forth, and the way that their characters develop is nice. And honestly, it's like I see some real acting coming from David Spade in this movie, which is surprising. Anyway,
yeah. So, yeah. Oh,
keep going.
Are we play? You play? No.
Nope.
Yeah. No. In fact, it's funny. There was a. Yeah, you know what scene there's the scene when like oh man, I'm looking at my notes because I really thought I had this one written down. But it's kind of like when he gets it. It's like when Richard finally figures out how to explain like selling to Tommy.
Right. Yeah, so that would be the scene
with Helen the waitress.
With Helen the waitress, and if you give me a moment, I'm just loading in all of our sound clips because I completely forgot to do that before. But basically, what happens is they just hit like their lowest point. They haven't sold anything, and Tommy's just making a complete ass of himself at every turn, and it gets to like their car's destroyed. And Richard, David Spade's character, like whacks Tommy in the face with the board, and they're at their like lowest point, and then they go into this like roadside diner, and then we get this wonderful scene.
And you, what can I get? Jesus, what happened to your face?
I knew it. See, Richard, I'll have chicken wings.
Kitchen's closed until dinner. Just got cold stuff and desserts.
Boy, some chicken wings would really hit the spot. You sure it's closed?
Let me check. Yep, it's closed.
Okay. I'll just have a sugar packet or two. Hey, what's your name?
Helen.
That's nice. You look like a Helen. Helen, we're both in sales. Let me tell you why I suck as a salesman. Let's say I go into some guy's office. Let's say he's even remotely interested in buying something. Well, then I get all excited. I'm like, Jojo, the idiot circus boy with a pretty new pet. The pet is my possible sale. Oh, my pretty little pet. I love you. So I stroke it, and I pet it, and I massage it. Yeah, I love it. I love my little naughty pet. You're naughty. And then I take my naughty pet, and I go... Oh! I killed it! I killed my sale. That's when I blow it. That's when people like us have got to forge ahead, Helen. Am I right?
God, you're sick. Tell you what, I'll go turn the fryers back on and throw some wings in for you.
Hey, thanks, Helen. Tummy likey. Tummy want wingy.
Did that board of the head knock something loose?
What are you talking about?
That 180 you just pulled with the waitress. Why can't you sell like that?
I was just having fun. If we didn't get the wings, so what? We still got that meat lover's pizza in the trunk.
Hey, you got the wings because you were relaxed, so you had confidence. And that's what it takes to sell. Confidence. Your dad had that.
Yeah. So that's definitely the scene where things really turn around, and Richard sees him as, somebody with potential.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought that was one of those scenes where I thought like you really saw some nice moments with David Spade. And I mean, Chris Farley's hilarious in that scene.
He's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, I mean, the movie's pretty much like, it's your standard road movie with a, comedy pair.
Road. That's from Black Sheep.
Oh, yeah. I only
when they're
watched
high off the nitrous that got punctured in the car, and they're looking at the road map, and they're talking about how funny the word road is.
Oh, I did not get. I watched like a little bit of Black Sheep.
I haven't watched it in I guess I watched it like a few months ago, maybe.
I guess you watched it recently enough to remember it.
That part sticks out for me, and maybe this is another one of those like generational things where like it was more prominent in my life than in yours because maybe I just happened to be watching more HBO at that time than you were.
That came out when I was in college, so I was on like a strict like indie film, pretty like indie and classics diet. of films. So, but I mean, I watched Black Sheep at some point. I think probably when it like came out on VHS and was in the video store. And
I think it also played on like Comedy Central nonstop.
I'm sure it did. It did. And some great casting in here. So first of all,
the late great Brian Dennehy.
Yes.
One out.
Indeed. Brian Dennehy, and he's just so like he's just so loving. And even when Tommy's, when they're walking through the factory towards the beginning, and Tommy is just being a complete and total idiot.
He's kind of amazing. I do want to play the part where they first go into Tommy's new office.
Yes. One of my favorite Dennehy moments.
Okay, left. Can I open my eyes now, Dad? I told you didn't have to close them in the first place, son. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, open them up. That's my name. Yeah, that's your new office now, college grad. Go on in there. Awesome. Hey, there's even a fridge. This is great. You can put 6 packs of soda in here, milk, yogurt. You can put candy bars in the freezer. Anything that you want to keep cool.
Mr. Callahan, I need your John Hancock on these reports.
John Hancock. It's Herbie Hancock. Yeah. Richard, check out my new office.
You have a window. And why shouldn't you? You've been here 10 minutes.
The way that he delivers the line, you could put 6 packs of soda in here, is so good.
Well, and then Dennehy with the anything you want to keep cool.
Yeah.
It's like he found the one way to say that and not sound condescending.
Totally. Yeah. No, he's totally playing it perfectly. Like the loving dad who's just like, this is my son. And you know what? He's a little different, but that's okay.
So Brian Dennehy's great, and that's really like, the emotional core of the movie is when he is his passing.
Right.
And I thought the casting of Bo Derek, is great. It allows, of course, for the tribute to 10.
Can I have my eyes now, Dad? For God's sake, son, will you quit covering your damn eyes?
I love that.
Holy shnikes.
Getting out of the pool.
Is that for me? No, son, that's for me. Oh, man. Dad, she's like a 10.
Hi, honey.
Hi.
It's so interesting because, like, I know that the movie 10 is iconic because of like Bo Derek's, I don't know if performance is even the right word, but presence.
Yeah.
Like it's known for just the fact that Bo Derek is a total babe. Like, I don't know if anybody, if I went up to a person on the street and asked them to tell me the plot of the movie 10, it would take me maybe a year to find somebody who could do it. But, if anybody's familiar with it at all they know about it is Bo Derek.
Well,
so,
I mean, not for that. And look, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen it. If I have, I don't remember it, but it is
what it is because of the image of Bo Derek.
I'm pretty sure Dudley Moore plays a pianist in it.
Okay.
I don't, that's
I do know Dudley Moore is in it.
Dudley Moore is in it, and Blake Edwards wrote and directed it. But no, it's an interesting. It's interesting because I guess like maybe because this comes out in 1995, and I think 10 came out in like 1980. So this was probably at the tail end of like that reference being understood.
You know what? And even if it's not a reference that's understood, it still works just as a line.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, let's put it this way. It's a reference that more people are going to get probably than the Amadeus reference in Last Action Hero.
You think?
I'm pretty sure that you've got just as much chance of walking into a theater in 1993, a matinee of Last Action Hero, and finding people who can explain the Amadeus references.
Of Last Action Hero. Okay.
Well, yeah, I don't know. An evening showing, you might have more adults.
Yeah.
And
then Rob Lowe as Paul, dirtbag Rob Lowe.
Another one of his great
Paul.
Another one of his great Lorne Michaels comedy.
Yeah, it is so funny
villain.
how, I mean, clearly he's buds with Mike Myers. They did Wayne's World, and then Austin Powers. I think he was in the second one or the third one.
Yeah, he's in the second one. He's
one.
Yeah, he's the young version
number
of number two.
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. He fits into this like comedy world, but
But
I don't know.
you think about his career, and it's like, okay, so how did Rob Lowe become famous? Well, okay, so he's teen heartthrob in the 80s with The Outsiders and St. Elmo's Fire.
Wailing on that sax.
Yeah. I'm thinking of like Joel Schumacher and sax players, and because Joel Schumacher directed St. Elmo's Fire.
Yeah. And The Lost Boys.
Yeah, so Rob Lowe's like career, like the part of his career that really put him on the map was he did not do comedy like ever. Right. Really. Yeah,
and he does show up in these things as the bad guy, which is it seems like probably a lot of fun for him. And he's kind of just having fun. I mean, a lot of people now know him from things like Parks and Rec. And fewer people probably know him from The Grinder, although The Grinder was so good.
The Grinder, such a good show. Everyone, please, if you have, this is our great opportunity. Seek it out. There is but one season of it. Find it on Hulu. Fred Savage, Rob Lowe, the great William Devane.
I was going to say the great Timothy Olyphant, but yes, William Devane, of course, our favorite.
Oh, the legendary Timothy Olyphant.
Yes. Timothy Olyphant, who plays himself.
Brilliantly.
And is the foil to Rob Lowe's character. Is so amazing.
But then you also like Rob Lowe did, I think 4 seasons of The West Wing.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
A good dramatic actor in his own right, but I dare say, like, I feel like comedy, whether he's playing the villain in one of these movies or being, in Parks and Rec.
Oh yeah,
so incredibly likable.
Well, yeah,
yeah,
to a
literally.
fault.
No.
Yes, right. So, this movie, as we were saying before, like it really hinges on the chemistry between Chris Farley and David Spade. Who knows if this would have worked with anybody else? I believe that the role of Richard was maybe originally supposed to go to Adam Sandler, but he was doing Billy Madison. And it's hard to imagine what it would have been like with somebody like Adam Sandler, who's also a more zany actor.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and especially at that time, we know Adam Sandler is definitely, So, but it's hard to imagine anyone other than David. I think also because David Spade definitely put his own stamp on this part, and it definitely feels like there are scenes that kind of hinged on their personas. Like for Farley, the scene we just listened to with Helen the waitress, very much in his wheelhouse. The part when Rob Lowe's hosing him down at the gas station and he's doing Maniac.
So funny.
And then, but David Spade has, the scene where they're on the plane, where they're posing as flight attendants.
We're gonna get busted. Let's get out of here.
Too late. Hey, guess who's here? What are we serving tonight? Chicken or Chicken.
What a nice surprise. They said we were going to be short-handed this leg. You two take coach. Oh, and could you handle the announcements?
Okie dokie. No problemo.
They're gonna know we're bogus.
Relax. You get on the horn, I'll throw some peanuts at him. We'll be in Chicago before you know it.
Okay, folks, the guy in front of you is Tommy. He'll be taking you through my little spiel here. Tommy is a Scorpio, he likes biking, and he's never been laid. Exits! Okay, there's one back here, and there's probably one over by the wing somewhere, usually. And what about seatbelts? To fasten. Take the little end and stick it in the big end, and you know what? If you guys don't know how to use a seatbelt, just ring your call button, and Tommy will come back there and hit you on the head with a tack hammer because you're a Okay, and life preservers. These we may need. Although, what are the odds of us actually hitting a lake? My money says, if anything, it's gonna be a mountain. To inflate, put it around your neck and yank down on the tab.
I can't breathe!
He's a big dumb animal, isn't he, folks?
So what's perplexing to me about that scene is that David Spade's character is so nervous about being busted, yet he's a total wise ass on the speaker. He doesn't even try to sound convincing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like his bit from SNL where he was the flight attendant. Say, okay, bye-bye.
I know, but like he comes onto the thing being like, they're gonna catch us. So it's almost like it would have made more sense if he was the one that was more confident about it working, and Tommy was the one who was maybe more nervous about getting caught. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
But at this point, you know, Tommy's the one that's coming up with all the great ideas to get them to Chicago to try to save their company. So
yeah.
Maybe,
Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Zelensky.
great casting. Yep.
Yes.
I love when Dan Aykroyd does the fast talking Chicago bit.
He's
I
so
make
great
cars.
in
I
this.
make parts for cars.
Yeah.
I can't
for the
do it
American
as
people,
fast
because
as-
that's what I am, and that's what I care about, or whatever he says. Yeah, he's so good. This, you know, let's see, when did Coneheads come out? Because it was
93.
Yeah, okay, so right around this time, and then Chris Farley's in that, definitely. But yeah, this is when Dan Aykroyd's got his whole like fast talking thing nailed down. He is capitalizing on that for sure. And another Lorne Michaels Blue Sky with Clouds poster.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like Dan Aykroyd kind of always came out to pop up into these movies. Any of the SNL movies that were made, like Dan Aykroyd will come in and pop up and make an appearance. I feel like he's a good solid company guy that way.
Yeah, right. Reminds me, I saw the new Ghostbusters Afterlife. Dan, I don't know if I talked too much about it. I think that if I did, the only thing I would have said is that it is a delight. It is a real delight. And it does what it seeks out to do. And you're either along for the ride or, you know, maybe you won't enjoy it so much. But there's that. And also, like, off topic, but still having to do with reboots, I saw the new West Side Story the other day.
Oh, really?
And, yeah, I went to an industry screening of it, and it was really nice. It was really good. It was very
nice.
Spielbergy. Well, I mean, I'm not really super big into musicals, and I felt like it worked. There was a lot of stuff that worked about it, and it definitely didn't feel like it takes anything away from the original. And the things that I noticed that were different about it, I think were good choices. So my endorsement for the new West Side Story.
Okay. And while we're on this tangent, I will also add in, more of the sequel realm, I got to see No Time to Die. Oh. And yeah.
What did you think? I saw that one.
I really liked it. Really liked it. Now, caveat here, I did not see it in a theater. I watched it on demand, which also allowed for some strategic like pausing and like we watched like 2 hours of it before going to dinner and then finished it after dinner. So it was it wasn't, because it's a long movie, 2 hours and 40 minutes, but and I thought definitely a fitting send off for Daniel Craig.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Skyfall like really was just like a perfect movie.
It's hard to top Skyfall.
Skyfall's so good. And this one was kind of, it more felt like Spectre Part 2, you know,
which was
rather
kind
than, like Daniel Craig, James Bond Part 5.
Right. Yeah. Although I have to say I enjoyed it a lot more than Spectre.
I think I enjoyed them equally. I really loved the opening scene in Spectre, the Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
In like Mexico. And I thought that was really cool. There were a lot of things about it about Spectre that I really enjoyed that this one didn't really have. And I was a little disappointed that like Ana de Armas wasn't in it as much as I thought she would be, because her character was really interesting, and I thought that there was more that they could have done with that.
I have to wonder if that was meant to be more of a character, a little character introduction.
To come back in the next iteration.
Well, because I feel like it's gonna, like, Lashana Lynch will be the new 007. I think, or at least I hope that's the direct. Like, that's what they seem to be setting up. Is carrying on with Lashana Lynch, and I think that if you have the Ana de Armas character as maybe like her Felix Leiter. Yeah. So I thought it was,
we'll see.
I enjoyed it, but I also think it actually benefited from not going to the theater and seeing it.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I really like seeing the Bond movies in the theater, just because it's a big, especially this like last iteration. They're just so big and they really just suck you in. So I definitely try to see them in the theater if I can. And
this was the only one of the Daniel Craig series that I did not see in the theater.
Yeah. But anyway, back to Tommy Boy.
Back to Tommy Boy.
Yeah. So Dan, do you remember like seeing Tommy Boy for the first time?
Vaguely. I'm pretty sure that it was a family outing to the movies. At least like the three of us. And because it came out my senior year of high school, and I believe it was out during like spring break.
Yeah. So like, all right, you kids go to a movie.
Yeah, I think it was one of those. I think we saw it at the Menlo Park Mall.
Okay.
In New Jersey, Edison, New Jersey. I'm pretty sure that's where we saw. Although this might have been a New Park Cinema one. I don't know. I remember seeing it in the theater. I'm almost positive it was in Menlo Park.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I remember seeing it. I've never been the biggest fan of it. I've never.
Yeah. I mean, I get that because I think that maybe you were a little too old for it to really hit the way that it would hit somebody 5.5 years younger than you, myself. I
mean, maybe a lot of people my age really like it.
Yeah, so. No, I yeah, for sure. But I think that like the way that it has continued on in time, I think that for people my age, it was one of those rewatch ones that was just like a comfort movie. Not to say that other people wouldn't appreciate it, but I think that it was one that like, because it would get replayed on Comedy Central or HBO or whatever, you know, it was definitely just more present for us people who were home more, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there were other comedies from this time period that I gravitated to much more. We mentioned Billy Madison earlier, and
So good.
I didn't see Billy Madison for, it was like a couple of years later, but Billy Madison's hilarious. I will still watch Billy Madison on occasion.
And, Billy Madison and Tommy Boy are two movies that do have this type of thing where they are so linked to the main, like to the lead actors, that it really makes what we talk about on this podcast a little bit more challenging. And that, Dan, is where I ask you what you would do with this movie given the opportunity to bring it back today.
Yeah. It's a tough question because it comes down to like, all right, well, do we look at kind of the formula of the movie? A comedy team on the road, in some type of road situation where there's these stakes. In which case, like, it was done before Tommy Boy. It's been done since Tommy Boy.
Yeah.
I think the challenge in doing something like that now is it doesn't feel like you have like this general knowledge of, like, entertainment is so fragmented, and it's so very much like, choose your own entertainment, so that it's not like everyone is watching SNL. And I mean, I know that, like, of course, people are still building their careers and becoming, like, really big stars from SNL. But it's kind of harder to think about, like, kind of a pairing, or think about, I don't think we see the SNL movies as much.
No.
And even though this wasn't based on a sketch, it was based in the personas that David Spade and Chris Farley really developed on that show.
Would MacGruber be really like the last SNL movie? Even though it's not really.
I mean, MacGruber. MacGruber. It's kind of like. I mean, I don't know if MacGruber is necessarily like a Lorne Michaels production,
but it's also a character that
was from SNL. I would consider MacGruber an SNL movie. I mean, like, look at the Blues Brothers. That's like the first.
I'm just trying to think of the last.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of what the last one would have been.
And I think it was MacGruber. I can't think of any other characters that have been adapted into a film. I don't know if that is really a thing that can happen anymore. Like, what are you going to do?
Like build a David S. Pumpkins movie?
Maybe.
I don't know.
The Kristen Wiig character who can't keep a secret, like.
But that was forever ago too.
Well, yeah. No, that's true. So, it kind of feels like something that its time has passed. But I don't know. And I think in terms of like the comedy pairing, maybe the way to go with this is not necessarily a remake of Tommy Boy, but I'm wondering about it like a Superbad sequel, like to pair. I'm trying to think of other like comedy pairs, and I'm like, who are really good comedy pairs? And I'm just thinking of Michael Cera and Jonah Hill in Superbad. So I don't know. Maybe it's that. Maybe
it's just using Tommy Boy as like a framework for another road movie with that type of dynamic.
Yeah. It's a tough one because then it's like you ask yourself, well, like, would this work as a series? And no, not really. How do you carry that on? And I mean, so much of this was really built around Chris Farley and David Spade. So I mean, I really think it's I think the answer to the question of like, oh, well, Tommy Boy, this huge, like this big, comedy classic from the 90s, how do we remake it or how do we reboot it? Well, you don't, but you build new stars. Build like maybe we need to kind of go back a little bit and look at like what does it take, like who are the big like comedy stars now, and even like all the big comedy stars aren't like Jason Sudeikis, but
yeah,
he's kind of
doing his own thing, and he's already done a lot of those,
We're the Millers.
Yeah.
We're the Millers is a good example of
that one is a
Jason
road
Sudeikis.
movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, I don't know. I honestly I don't have.
And
a
then
good
you
answer.
also have movies like The Hangover, where you do have the similar dynamics, but you kind of split them off into some more people. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's just like, maybe like let's build some new comedy stars. Let's put some people out there. I don't know. Maybe there's a there's an opportunity to take people from SNL, maybe like a Bowen Yang, and pair him with someone. I don't have a good answer for this. Do you?
Okay. Well, Dan, for this one was thinking there is no way to replicate the chemistry that Chris Farley and David Spade had in a remake or anything like that. So the clear thing for me is a prequel focusing on Tom Callahan Jr., Brian Dennehy's character, and Tommy's mom, who all we know about her is that she's passed away. And you have to wonder what happened, because Tom Callahan, he seems to have his shit together, and this is his son. So my thought is that, it's like the 60s. 60s. And Tom Callahan, he inherits his father's, modest-sized auto parts company, and he's determined to grow the business. But he falls in love with a quirky competitor, and he nearly loses his business in an effort to win her over. And it's called Tammy Girl.
Oh.
And I was trying to think like who would be an okay younger Brian Dennehy. And with the different names I've kind of popped around a little bit. And I wish that I didn't go with this one, but it feels right to me. But I feel like Josh Gad would be a good young Tom Callahan, responsible, can do a little gruff, can be that kind of person. And as Tommy's mom, or future mom, I guess, because he wouldn't have been born yet, Jillian Bell, who's fantastic. And she's such a great physical comedian. I feel like, without trying to replicate Chris Farley's, spastic movements, still just kind of being a bit of a mess of a person, but being super funny. She's great in 22 Jump Street. I don't know if you remember her in 22 Jump Street, but she's absolutely amazing. I go very back and forth on Jillian Bell. I do think that she is a excellent suggestion for this. Yeah. And she's great in Brittany Runs a Marathon. I mean, everything I've seen her in, she's really good. I think that she'd be a lot of fun in a role like this. That's in a more 90s comedy type of movie. And as far as directors go, I was actually thinking Natalie Morales. She directed the movie Plan B. She also did a movie called Language Lessons. And she Plan B is fantastic. And it definitely felt more like a 90s comedy. Similar in a way to Booksmart, and I would say also Olivia Wilde would be a totally great director for this also, given what we see that she did with Booksmart, and I'm excited for is it Cocaine Bear that she's doing or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Very much.
So anyway, that's kind of where my head was for this one.
All right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's one was a tough nut to crack. Jeez, and we thought we were gonna have a challenge with Amadeus.
Amadeus, that one, it just clicked at a certain point. But I feel like that what's fun about this show is that we can sometimes challenge ourselves, and this one was a little bit more of a push because it is one where the movie is so heavily linked to the actors in it.
Yeah, and there's just also, it's like the story doesn't lend itself to being a musical, which is right. Usually the good, like, kind of cop out.
I mean, you could do a whole number on Fat Guy in a Little Coat.
Well, yes, Fat Guy in a Little Coat could definitely be its own musical number, but I don't think I do think the Rob Lowe and Bo Derek characters would work well in a musical.
Oh, Dan, see, now you're starting to convince yourself that it's a good idea.
You're right, I am.
Yeah.
Oh, and hey, you know what? We totally did not mention Julie Warner, who plays what's the character's name?
Michelle?
Michelle, thank you.
Yeah, she's great.
Julie Warner. So, yeah, she's great.
As Tommy's love interest.
Yeah.
And so, you buy it too. You can tell that she really just loves his, I don't know, his warmth, his energy.
Yeah, they've got a nice chemistry.
They really do. Yeah. Any other thoughts about Tommy Boy?
No, not really.
Well, before you introduce what we're going to do in the next episode, I want to send a special thank you to everybody who has purchased items on our TeePublic store. The link to that is on our link tree in our episode description. We've been getting some sales from there, and it's been really encouraging. And I know that there's going to be a lot of, they're going to put a lot of the items on sale leading up to the Christmas time, the buying time.
Yeah.
So, lots of cool mugs, tote bags, face masks, shirts, hoodies.
Lots of fun stuff. Of fun stuff on there. And we're going to keep coming up with some more ideas. But we've got a lot of great ones on there so far. So
it's fun when I can see which ones are being purchased. And it's just like, okay. There's a Jesse Plemons fan out there who's going to have a very Merry Christmas.
And as well they should.
Yeah.
I
hope it's Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah. Oh, they are. They're working together on something again, aren't they?
I saw being married people.
Oh, are they? Oh, I didn't realize they were married. Okay.
Yeah. I think they are working on something together, though.
I know that they did the season 2
did
of
Fargo.
Yeah. Anyway, good way to go, Jesse Plemons. All right. We love Jesse Plemons here. Yeah, we like.
Yeah. I think someone got an Oscar Isaac mug. That's cool.
Nice. Oscar Isaac.
And send us your pictures of your stuff that you get. Yes. We'd love to see it. But yeah,
please do.
And of course, check us out on our social medias, also in that link tree. But Dan, what is next?
Well, next we don't have any merch for this yet, but the idea train is on the tracks, and hopefully it doesn't get held up by Billy the Kid and his gang, because we're talking about Young Guns and Young Guns 2.
Oh boy,
yes.
Oh boy.
Blaze of Glory.
Oh man, I am excited. I haven't seen these movies since I was a kid.
In a blaze of glory. Oh yeah, crank up the Bon Jovi.
Young Guns.
Get ready for Young Guns.
Streaming on Hulu. Check it out. So Dan, as you are trying to sell 500,000 units of brake pads, I wish you a good journey.
Brake pads for the American people. Good journey.